Welcome to this short training video on how to design a service learning project. The aim is to offer a clear and practical guide for designing and putting a service learning project into practice in higher education. In this video, we will walk you through the main phases of the project design process. But it's important to understand that this is not a fixed model designed to work in exactly the same way in every context. Each university, each community organization, and each local context is different. However, there are some common principles and key steps that can help us design projects that are participatory, meaningful, and connected to real community needs. By the end of this training, we hope you will have a clear roadmap and feel better prepared to start designing your own service learning project. This training builds on the practical guide to service learning developed by Santos-Pastor and College in 2021. If you'd like to explore the full guide, you can access it through the QR code on the slide. The guide was developed by researchers from different Spanish universities with experience in service learning, physical activity and sport, and social inclusion. It is also linked to the RIADES Research Network, which focuses on service learning, physical activity and sport as a tool for social inclusion. These backgrounds gives the training both an academic foundation and a practical orientation toward community-based projects. Before looking at each phase in detail, let's take a moment to look at the whole process. Designing a service learning project involves 5 main phases: analyzing the context and identifying needs, designing the project, implementing it, evaluating the experience, and sharing the results. These phases should not be understood as isolated steps. Through the whole process, collaboration, participation, reflection, and ongoing evaluation are essential. Service learning goes beyond planning and activity. It means building a shared process between the university, students, and the community where learning and social contribution develop together. In the following slide, we will go through each phase and explain what needs to be done, how to move forward, and what should be achieved before moving to the next step. Okay, so let's begin with the first phase, understanding the context and identifying community needs. Every service learning project begins long before students engage with the community. It starts with a simple yet fundamental question. What social needs in our community do we want to help address? The objective of this first phase is not to design activities, but to gain a thorough understanding of the local context. To do so, it is essential to analyze the environment, get to know the local situation, and, above all, listen carefully to the people and organizations we will be working with. In service learning, we do not design on our own what the problem is. Instead, the need should emerge through dialogue with the community. Community organizations, local groups, and the people directly involved have the deepest understanding of their own reality. They are therefore in the best position to help identify where our collaboration can make a meaningful contribution. This process involves observing, asking questions, meeting with community partners, and exploring existing needs together. In many cases, several potential needs will emerge. It is therefore important to identify the one that is most relevant for the community, while also offering meaningful learning opportunities for students and aligning with the learning outcomes of the course or academic program. The outcome of this phase is a shared understanding of a community need agreed upon by both the university and its community partners. These identified needs becomes the foundation on which the entire service learning project will be built. But before moving on to the next phase, it is worth taking a moment to reflect on three key questions. Is the identified need genuinely significant? Does it respond to a real demand expressed by the community? Does the university have the expertise, resources, and educational capacity to contribute meaningfully to addressing this need? If the answer to these three questions is yes, you're ready to move on to the project design phase. So the three key takeaways here is this. In service learning, we do not begin by asking, what do we need to teach? Or what do we want to teach? We begin by asking, what does the community need and how can that need become a meaningful learning opportunities within our academic program? So let's move on to the second phase, project design. Once we have identified a community need together with our community partners, it is time to design the project. This is the stage where we transform that identified need into a meaningful learning opportunity. Service learning is often misunderstood as simply organizing a volunteer activity or a community activity for students. However, that is not enough. The key is to design an educational experience in which learning and community engagement are fully integrated. The first step is to define what we want students to learn. We identify the competencies, knowledge, and skills that students are expected to develop through the course or academic program. Next, together with the student and the community partner, we co-design these activities that will respond to the identified need. These activities should make a meaningful contribution to the community while also supporting the intended learning outcome. These activities should make a meaningful contribution to the community while also supporting the intended learning outcomes. Once these elements have been defined, we plan the activities required for the project. We organize the timeline, assign roles and responsibilities, identifying the necessary resources, and make sure that all activities are fully integrated into the curriculum. Finally, we decide how student learning and the project's impact on the community will be assessed. The outcome of this phase is a clear design service learning project ready for implementation. But before moving on, it is important to check that there is a genuine balance between the two core dimensions of service learning. Because if we focus only on learning, we are simply delivering a traditional academic activity. And if we focus only on the community contribution, we are only organizing a volunteering or community engagement activity. Service learning exists only when both dimensions are intentionally integrated and support each other. What matters most in this phase is we do not design one project for learning and another for community engagement. We design a single project in which learning and collaboration with the community take place at the same time. Let's move now to the third phase, putting the project into practice. Once the project has been designed, it is time to implement it. This is the moment when the university and the community partners come together. Learning moves beyond the classroom and takes place in authentic, real-world context. However, implementing a service learning project means much more than carry out a set of planned activities. The aim is to create meaningful learning experience where students can apply their knowledge, develop professional and civic competencies, and gain a deeper understanding of the social context they are engaging with. To make this possible, students need to be prepared before they begin their work with the community. The project also needs to be closely coordinated with the community partners, and everyone involved should clearly understand their roles and responsibilities. Throughout the implementation, reflection should be continuous and intentional. Reflection helps students connect their experience with academic learning, understand the community context more deeply, and think critically about their own learning and about how the project can be improved. Ongoing monitoring is also essential. During the implementation, it might be necessary to adapt activities, adjust the timeline, or respond to new needs that emerge through collaboration with the community. It is also useful to collect evidence throughout the project. Reflective journals, photographs, student products, observation records, and feedback from participants all provide valuable information about the learning process and the development of the project. This evidence will later help us evaluate both student learning and the overall impact of the project. But before moving on to the next phase, we should make sure that students have actively participated through the process, that the project has made a meaningful contribution to the community, and that the reflection have been integrated from the beginning to the end. What we should keep in mind at this stage is that experience alone does not guarantee learning. It is the combination of meaningful community engagement, continuous reflection, and active participation that transform experience into learning. Now we come to the fourth phase, evaluation. Once the project has been implemented, it is time to evaluate the experience. In service learning, evaluation is about much more than grading students. Its purpose is to understand what students have learned, what contribution the project has made to the community, and how the project can be improved. First, we assess student learning. We look at the development of competencies, knowledge, skills, and attitudes, drawing on different sources of evidence collected throughout the project, such as reflective journals, observations records, student products, and presentations. At the same time, we evaluate the project's contribution to the community and its overall impacts. To do this, it is essential to listen to community partners and to the people involved in the project, gathering their feedback on the relevance, quality, and value of the experience. Finally, we analyze all the information collected to identify strengths, challenges, and opportunities for improvement. This process helps us recognize what has worked well, understand what needs to be adjusted, and gather useful insight for future service learning experience. Evaluation, therefore, does not mark the end of the project. Instead, it becomes a starting point for continuous learning, improvement, and innovation. So, what should we keep in mind in this phase? In service learning, we evaluate both what students learn and the contribution the project makes within the community. The fifth and final phase, dissemination and transfer. Once the project has been evaluated, it is important to share what has been learned and think about how the experience can be useful beyond the original project. In service learning, completing a project does not mean that the experience comes to an end. It is also the moment to share the results, make the learning visible, and create new opportunities for collaboration. Disseminating a project means communicating its value. It involves sharing the community need that was addressed, explaining how the project was developed, highlighting what students learned, and showing the contribution made through collaboration between the university and the community. This can be done through conference, workshop, publication, social media, videos, website, or any other communication channel that helps make the experience visible. However, dissemination is only one part of the process. We should also think about transfer. Transfer means enabling other educators, universities, and community organizations to learn from our experience, adapt it to their own contexts, and develop a new service learning project. This phase also helps strengthen the partnership established throughout the project, recognizing the contribution of community partners, acknowledging their own commitment, and maintaining long-term relationships are essential for the sustainability of future collaborative initiatives. Finally, it is important to reflect on the future of the project. How can we strengthen this partnership? Which elements have worked particularly well? What could be improved in future editions? When we share our experiences, we create opportunities for others to learn from what we have done. We also contribute to building a community committed to educational innovation, collaboration, and social transformation. Dissemination and transfer complete service learning cycle, but they also open the door to new projects, new partnership, and new opportunities to continue learning with the community. As we close the cycle, it is important to remember this. Every service learning project begins with a community need, but its potential grows when the knowledge generated is shared, inspires others, and contributes to more just, participatory, and sustainable communities. After exploring the 5 key phases of a service learning project, we now need to look at the quality criteria that should guide the whole process. Simply following these phases does not by itself guarantee a high quality project. What makes the difference between a one-time activity and an authentic service learning experience is a set of principles that should be presented from beginning to end. The first principle is to start with a genuine community need. The most meaningful projects emerge when they respond to real challenges identified within the community and are developed by listening carefully to the people and organizations involved. The second key element is the intentional integration of learning and community engagement. Service learning is not about teaching first and engaging with the community afterwards. It's about designing educational experiences in which both dimensions develop at the same time and support each other. A third essential principle is partnership with the community. Community organizations are not simply beneficiaries of the project, they are partners in the educational process. They contribute to identify needs, co-design the project, supporting its implementation, and participating in its evaluation. It is equally important to place the student at the center of their own learning rather than being passive recipients of knowledge. Students become active participants who analyze real situations, make decisions, work collaboratively, and contribute to improving their communities. Another essential element is continued reflection. Reflecting before, during, and after the community experience helps students connect practice with academic learning, gain a deeper understanding of social realities, and make sense of their own experiences. Likewise, a high-quality project includes comprehensive evaluation, assessing both student learning and the contribution made within the community. Evaluation enables us to improve future projects while showing their educational and social values. Finally, every service learning project should aim to contribute to social transformation. Even when the changes achieved are small, each experience should strengthen the relationship between the university and the community, promote active citizenship, and contribute to building a more inclusive, equitable, and sustainable society. These are not additional phases of the project. They are quality criteria that should inform every decision we make, from the initial analysis of community needs to the dissemination of the project outcomes. The final idea here is simple. The phases tell us what to do. Their quality criteria help us to do it well. We have now reached the end of the project design process. Through this training, we have explored the key phases of a service learning project and identified the essential elements that define a high-quality experience. But before launching your project, it is worth taking a moment to do one final check. This checklist brings together the key questions that every project team should consider before getting started. First, make sure that your project addresses a genuine community need and that you have a community organization committed to collaborating as an active partner through the process. Next, check that the learning objectives are clearly defined. Students should understand the competencies, knowledge, and skills they are expected to develop through the experience. Similarly, the project should respond directly to the identified community needs and make a meaningful contribution to the community. Another essential element is active student participation. Students should not simply carry out assigned tasks. They should be involved in decision making, collaborate with community partners, and take an active role in shaping their own learning. It is also important to ensure that the project includes opportunities for reflection, as reflection is what enables students to connect their experience with academic learning and develop a deeper understanding of the issues they encounter. In addition, every project should include a clear evaluation plan to assess both student learning and the contribution made to the community. Finally, consider how you will disseminate the project, share its outcomes, and enable others to learn from your experience. If you can confidently answer yes to each of these questions, your project is ready to move forward. But before launching the project, it is worth remembering this. A successful service learning project does not happen by chance. It is the result of careful planning, meaningful collaboration, and well-informed educational decisions. As we come to the end of this training, we would like to highlight one key idea. Service learning is not a linear sequence of steps that ends when a project is completed. It's a continued process of learning, collaboration, reflection, and improvement. Throughout this training, we have explored the 5 key phases of a service learning project, which are analyzing the context, designing the project, implementing it, evaluating the experience, and disseminating the results. Together, these phases provide a roadmap for designing high-quality service learning experiences. However, when one project ends, the next one is already beginning. Evaluation helps us understand what worked well and what could be improved. Dissemination enables us to share the knowledge we have generated, strengthen our partnership with the community, and inspire new initiatives. Together, these elements become the starting point for future projects with greater educational and social value. That is why we represent service learning as a continuous cycle. Every project generates a new learning, strengthens relationship, and creates new opportunities to respond to the changing needs of communities. Throughout the cycle, 4 key elements remain presented at every stage. The first is collaboration. Service learning is possible when universities and community partners work together, sharing responsibilities, knowledge, and common goals. The second is participation. Students move beyond being passive recipients of knowledge and become active participants in their own learning and contributors to positive social change. The third is reflection. Reflecting before, during, and after the community experience helps students connect practice with academic learning, deepen their understanding of social realities, and develop critical thinking. Finally, there is continuous improvement. Every project provides valuable insight that help us refine the next one. We evaluate, we learn, we innovate, and we begin again. This is the essence of service learning, a dynamic process in which every experience strengthens the relationship between the university and the community, enriches student learning, and contributes to positive social change. Service learning is more than a teaching methodology. It represents a way of understanding education as a shared committed to learning, participation, collaboration, and social transformation. To bring this cycle to a close, we can take 3 key ideas with us. Every project is an opportunity to learn. Every partnership is an opportunity to grow, and every experience is an opportunity to contribute to meaningful social change. We hope this training has given you a useful overview of the service learning project design process. Now, we invite you to take the next step, identifying a need in your own community, build meaningful partnership with community organization, and design a learning experience that allows students to learn while contributing to positive social change. Remember that no two service learning projects are ever the same. Every community has its own needs, challenges, and strengths, and every higher education institution brings unique expertise, resources, and learning opportunities. This diversity is what makes service learning such a valuable educational approach. As you begin design your own projects, we encourage you to adapt the ideas presented in this training to your local context, always working in partnership with the community and keeping student learning and community engagement at the heart of the experience. Now it's your turn. Learn together, collaborate together, and transform together. Thank you so much for your time and attention.